So we'll see here the mechanism of breathing. Breathing is taking in air, which is inhalation, and exhalation is breathing out air. So inhalation is taking in air, and exhalation is releasing the air or throwing the air out of the body. Now during inhalation, what happens is, in this thoracic cavity, we have this thoracic cavity where the lungs are present. The volume increases of the thoracic cavity, and because the volume increases, the pressure inside the lungs decreases. Now when this happens, the pressure outside is high while the pressure inside is low because the pressure is decreased. And what do you expect? The air to travel from high pressure to low pressure. So the air begins to rush in. I'll repeat again. In inhalation, the volume of the lungs or volume of the chest cavity increases. Because the volume increases, the pressure decreases, which means the pressure becomes low. Now the pressure outside the body is much higher. And air, you know, travels from high pressure to low pressure. So the air begins to rush into the cavity. Now when it comes to exhalation, just the opposite happens. So this is here is a thoracic cavity. And in this thoracic cavity now, the volume decreases. And because the volume decreases, the pressure increases. Pressure increases means the pressure now inside the thoracic cavity is become high, higher than the pressure outside. The pressure outside is less. So definitely you'll expect the air to move from a region of high pressure to low pressure. That's when we have exhalation taking place. Here is inhalation taking place. Now next we will see, why does this cavity, thoracic cavity, increase and decrease in size? There are two things that increase and decrease the size of the thoracic cavity. One is the ribs, the movement of the ribs, and the movement of the diaphragm. Now the diaphragm, we must also know what is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a special muscle present at the end of the thoracic cavity here. Now during inhalation, here we have the ribs, and the ribs, they lift up, and the diaphragm, here the diaphragm flattens. And because of these two reasons, the volume of the cavity increases. When it comes to exhalation, just the opposite happens. The ribs, they come to their normal position. And now here the diaphragm, in this case, it contracts. And because it contracts, there is a decrease in the volume. So the size of the thoracic cavity is controlled by the movement of the movement of the ribs and the diaphragm. These ribs and the diaphragm play a very important part in the movement of in the size of the thoracic cavity, which helps inhalation and exhalation.